Welcome to Week 9 of 2nd grade e-learning. This week's learning will focus on 3-digit addition strategies based on place value. The 3 steps for this week's learning are shown. Make sure that your child feels comfortable with the learning in Step 1 before moving on to Step 2, and comfortable with Step 2 before progressing to Step 3. In Step 1, students will break apart 2- and 3-digit numbers to add by place value. In the example shown, 537 can be broken apart into 5 hundreds plus 3 tens plus 7 ones. 385 is broken apart into 3 hundreds plus 8 tens plus 5 ones. 500 plus 300 equals 800. 3 tens plus 8 tens equals 11 tens or 110. 7 ones plus 5 ones equals 12 ones. Because there are more than 10 tens and more than 10 ones, these partial sums can also be broken apart. 110 is broken apart again into 100 and 110. 12 ones is broken apart into 110 and 2 ones. This gives you a total of 9 hundreds, 2 tens, and 2 ones, for a complete sum of 922. In the game for Step 1, students will play Tic-Tac-Toe with a math twist. On a player's turn, they select a space and solve the problem using the break-apart strategy. Their opponent checks their answer, and if they are correct, they get to place their X or O in that box. The object is to get 3 in a row, horizontally, vertically, or diagonally to win the game. In Step 2, students will use a partial sums strategy. With this strategy, students mentally add the hundreds, tens, and ones. Students think about the values of the digits and add them in their heads. In the example shown, a student would think 200 plus 400 is 600. They then record the 600. They mentally add the tens, thinking 70 plus 80 is 150, and they record 150. When adding the ones, the student thinks 4 plus 9 is 13, and they record 13. Finally, students add all of the partial sums together to find the total sum of 763. The game for this step is another math tic-tac-toe game. This time, students should use the partial sum strategy to solve their addition equations. In the final step, students will use place value understanding to add on an open number line. In the example shown, 493 is the greatest addend, so I start with that number at the beginning of my number line. I break apart the other addend into hundreds, tens, and ones. There are many different ways to find the sum on an open number line. This example will show just one of those possible ways. My first jump uses all of the hundreds. Since there are 2 more hundreds, my jump lands at 693. I break apart the tens into 2 parts. The first part will take me to the next 100. Since I already have 9 tens in 693, I need 1 more 10 to get me to 703. The next jump is 60, which is the other part of the 7 tens. This jump lands at 763. I've also broken apart the ones. 7 ones will get me to 770, and the other part of 8 is 1, so my final jump of 1 will land at 771. My total sum is 771. In the game for this step, closest to 1,000, the object is to get closest to 1,000 without going over after 6 spins. On each spin, the player decides in which place value to write their digit. For this game, player A spins for they write it in the ones place. Player B spins 2, they write it in the hundreds place. Player A spins 3, they decide to write it in the hundreds place. Player B spins 7 and writes it in the hundreds place. Player A, 5, places their 5 in the hundreds place. Player B writes their 5 in the ones place. Player A writes their 6 in the tens place. Player B writes the 1 in the tens place. Player A writes the 9 in the tens place. Player B writes the 1 in the ones place. Player A writes their 4 in the tens place. And player B writes their 8 in the tens place. Player A adds up their hundreds, tens, and ones. They have 8 hundreds, 19 tens, and 4 ones. They exchange 10 of the tens for another 100, and their final score is 994. Player B has 9 hundreds, 9 tens, and 6 ones, for a final score of 996. Player B wins the game. To practice using the new learning in real life, let your child create an addition game board that you can play together. Make cards with addition problems using 3-digit and 2-digit numbers, and make sure that each card has a number of spaces to move forward if correct. Then play the game as a family. Also included in this week's packet is a fluency game. This week, students will be working with both their basic addition and subtraction facts while they play the game Space Chase. On a player's turn, they roll 2 dice and find the sum. The yellow player rolls 5 and 4. They add 5 and 4 together for a sum of 9, and then they subtract that sum from the number 15. 15 take away 9 gives me 6. Since 6 is inside the first circle, the yellow player moves their piece to that first circle. The red player rolls a 6 and a 2. The sum of 6 and 2 is 8. They subtract 8 from 15 for a difference of 7. 7 is not in the first circle, so that player loses their turn. You may only move from one circle to the very next circle in a turn, and only if your answer is inside that circle. The first player to reach the moon wins the game. Remember to visit SmathSmarts.com for helpful information and videos. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter for the latest updates to the website. Have a great week of e-learning.